Yep.
There we go. Right. Hey, good evening to everybody who managed to log in. It is an awesome privilege and a pleasure to have you listening to us today, tuning in to us instead of watching Generations. Uh, it's a cold night tonight. I can see my guest is wearing a big scarf. But I know there's a whole lot of stuff happening with the load shedding. There's the booze ban that people are crying about and complaining. We can hear their cries all the way to heaven. And of course, COVID is still causing havoc. But the good thing is we will still survive through all these challenges. And we thank God for the opportunity. And I would like to welcome my guest for today. I'm your host, Ronald Muringai, but our guest today, we've got Bapaletswe Diphoko. Welcome, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me on this platform, this cold and chilled evening.
Yeah, no, it is cold. It looks like winter is about to leave, but it's giving us the last kick of the dying horse, they call it. So I hope it really just goes, man, because it's Nama.
Yeah, we can't survive in this weather, brother.
Definitely. So yeah, Diphoko, I think in short, just tell us in a brief minute or two, who is Bapaletswe?
Bapaletswe Diphoko is a young man that is coming from Mafikeng in the Northwest Province, the last born of the 3 girls in the family. And I'm a motivational speaker. I'm the founder of Courageous Act Foundation that is mainly focusing on issues of families, marriages, boys, and men.
That is a lot of stuff that you're wearing, sir. And I think I must say you are a hero because these are the kind of issues that men in general tend not to want to talk about. You know, the issues of family, the issues of relationships. You know, it's too deep, I would say, for a number of men. How did it become something that you value and you wanted to start a foundation to actually remedy society with? What was the inspiration for that?
The inspiration is really coming from my
Right, I think we just have a bit of technical issues here with the network. Mafikeng is not very kind to us today. Are you back, Ndade Bapaletswe? Can you hear me? These are the things that technology does to us, unfortunately. And I think we are learning with each day that we have to kind of bear with the tech and bear with the networks as they continue to wreak havoc. I'm not trying to do here. I think we'll just wait for, yes, you're back online, sir. I can see you now. You can just unmute your mic and proceed from where you left off. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, thank you so much. The lights are off now. The load shedding has started this side.
Hey, so and we're just talking about load shedding now.
Yes, so I'm trying to organize the candle for me to be up.
All right, yeah, we can see your eyes and your teeth in the meantime. So.
Oh, they are white enough. All right. All right. What should I do? Should I wait for the lights or should I continue?
No, you can continue. Just put a light in front of you. Use your cell phone or something, or a candle, whatever it is that you can use just to light up yourself. Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do. Yeah, as I was saying, that the inspiration really came as from me growing from a family where there was no father, and I have so much desired in me to be able to have a family that is healthy, that love one another with children there. And that in itself, as time goes on, looking at different types of families that I would interact with, visiting them, asking them questions, you know, that love grew in me to be in a position of finally or ultimately establishing an organization that speaks directly to the families. Because I realized that in actual fact that there is a serious challenge with regard to the families. And when we look in the society is really modeled by and it's influenced by family. Hence, there's a notion that says that the family is the cornerstone of every society. So there's just nowhere. When you look at a family, you realize that marriages are the ones that has brought or sprung, they gave birth to the family. And in a family, there is a mother, there is a father, there is a girl, and there is a boy child, But specifically because I have got two sons and I am a man, it was just channeled that I should be able to deal with issues directly from the man and the boy child.
Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Thank you very much. And I think it's something that we kind of lack currently in society. I think one of the reasons why I've even been inspired to start these conversations and to write the book that I wrote is exactly that, the realization that I think if society is going to get better going forward, we have to tackle these issues that especially us men don't like to talk about and don't like to dwell upon for most of the time, So I think I must give you congratulations on that and to say, continue with the good work that you're doing with that particular foundation. And I think it then begs the question, like you're saying, it comes from you. You've got two sons now, but you had a father relationship prior to, was you were a son. How was your relationship with your father? How would you describe your relationship with your father as you were growing up?
The truth of the matter is that, you'd find yourself, I grew up not having a biological father that I know. But I was having a stepfather in my life who was from a distance, even if he was present, but in terms of the total involvement of his life, he was not really much involved in my life, So that element or that vacuum inspired a lot of questions in me, inspired a lot of a desire for me to be in a position of wanting to be really closer to the male figure that I would identify as a father, because I was surrounded by a lot of men, but they would not even really reach out to that element or that desire of relationship or no, fulfill that very element of longing for fatherhood as a son in his life, So it was just an ordinary young man growing up, pursuing his dreams, but at the same time longing to have that right intimate relationship with the father when their father was just there, but not really reaching out or having that level of intimacy with the son.
Sure, totally understandable, sir. And I think how were the dynamics then between you getting all that manly advice and guidance from your stepfather versus your yearning and your desire to get that kind of treatment and love from your biological father? How did you manage to balance and to see then your stepdad in that light of him doing the right thing, even though you had preferred it potentially from coming in from your biological father rather?
The truth is, it's a natural thing that happens that we cannot be able to avoid. And the issue is that he was just there to pass the instructions in order for me to execute certain functions at home. But in terms of reaching out to me, finding out what would be my desires, what are my interests, getting those affirmations, giving me the sense of direction in life, those were the things that were lacking. And as a result, I was somehow would make it a mission to be able to be amongst the men that would talk issues of that nature, and I would keep quiet as a way of trying to fulfill these desires, because these people are talking something that is really fulfilling to me. So I would not necessarily say that I would get those type of conversations from home level, but I would be blessed enough to be able to get those conversations at the church level. Of course, that was a willingness from my side, positioning myself in that space to say, these are the people that I'm intending or I'm intentional to open my life to them so that they can be able to speak into my life.
Oh, understandable. You touch on very, very pertinent issues there. And I think if I were to say, because I think a lot of children today are growing up without their fathers at home. I think the last stats I saw were putting it at almost 60, 64, 65% roundabout, children with no fathers at home whatsoever. And you have or had a stepfather who then could have potentially fulfilled that role holistically, like you put it, that you would have wanted for you. what would you say to a stepfather listening in today who's raising a child that he knows biologically is not his own? Because look, we see these issues more utatako and kumbulekaya. When somebody finds out, this is not really my biological child, then they don't want to do anything about that child. They don't want to pay any support. The whole thing just kind of cuts away. There's no relationship, whatever, that takes place, even though that person has brought up that person as their child up until that time. But now, in the different situation where someone marries someone with children already, or a child, and then adopts that child as their stepchild, what is it that you would say to them? What's the thing that they need to do to be effective in that role of a father, even though this child is not theirs biologically?
Thank you for that very question. It's very much important. One thing that we are blessed with this generation is that we are very much exposed to the information to empower us to become better fathers. We need to bear this in mind, that fathering or fatherhood is a function attached to a man. So oftentimes it looks like there's a missing link between the fathers that came before us in terms of executing or reaching out to their sons or their children, simply because they themselves have never really been given the platform to nurture this function of sonship in their lives. So when you are present as a son, it becomes automatic that you are able to can challenge the father to reach out. Between what is common between the father and the son is the son in the father. So if the father himself never got the chance to become a son to his father, it becomes quite challenging and difficult for them to reach out to the son in the level of sonship. That is why it looks like many fathers don't know exactly how to be able to pass their experiences to the level of their sons, because they have not really been instilled that sonship in them. The boy child in you, it needs not to be lying dormant or to remain sleepy, but it ought to be in a position of constantly be ignited. Even when you are married, there comes a time as a husband, you need to reach out to your wife and allow the boy child and allow the girl child to come out and play and create that space of reaching the level of foolishness or the level of childishness in your lives. That in itself, it enhances relationships. Now, the reason why there seems to be a missing link is because this relationship was never really nurtured well of sonship in the fathers that are existing. That is why it looks like they are shying away from reaching out to their sons. Thank God we have the fathers in this era that they are prepared and willing to be able to allow the sons to reach out to them and instill that boy child or ignite that boy child in their father's lives. That's why it's very much important. And this can only be propelled by love. When you love your son, you are able to can come down to their level, even if you may not understand. By the fact that you see him as your son, you are able to can bend out, and this son can be able to teach you one or two things in terms of how does it be or how does it feel to become a son, And I would say this to the fathers who are guardians to the children that they find themselves guarding because of the marriages that they are in. Do not shy away. Do not be in a position of hiding the weakness of crying out to say, I may not understand this fatherhood journey, but I am willing and I am prepared to learn. So wives that are married to the stepfathers or step-husbands to their children, they are better in a position to create a platform for these fathers to become better fathers in the children's lives. And until they can be able to realize that strength in them, they can be able to unlock the guardianship in us as fathers who are the stepfathers to their children.
And you do so well now to bring in the mother aspect in that relationship and in that picture to assist in fomenting this relationship between a father and stepson, stepfather, whatever the case may be in that particular department. Now, I want to ask you, as a specialist now, when it comes to speaking about these type of love issues. Of course, we understand stepfather must love son, but now we're talking son learning how to love a woman from father or slash stepfather or slash guardian or whoever it is. How important is that? Is it of any significance that, you know, a son should see something or anything from their father about how to love a woman?
You know, the truth is that we are given the responsibility to protect the people that we love and that are closer to our hearts, number one. And number two, children adapt easily to what they see instead of what they hear us saying to them as a form of guidance. And in that saying, it becomes easier for the son to respect the stepmother because of the love and the respect that you give this woman that is in front of you. The moment there becomes a distortion, you have the responsibility as a man to protect your wife from the children who are coming with you and instill that element to say that this person is regarded in your life as the mother who's continuing from your biological mother the responsibilities and the roles. So that person is not to be a threat to you. When we grew up, we were raised to say that every man in the society is your father. Why? Because of this notion that any man carries principles that would be able to bring the healthiness of a child in the society. That is why it is also equally said that it takes two people to make a child, but it takes the village to raise a child. It is in the aspect of raising that we get to realize that the principles of parenting cut across, whether it is biological or it's not biological.
Yeah. So I see now we've kind of fixed on that, but what are the things then that a child, when he starts to fall in love, I think about 11, 12, for those who fell in love late, maybe like me, I think at 6 or 7, like you, maybe you were joining already. I was just looking at the Lord at that time. But I'm 11/12/13, and I'm really falling in love for the first time now. What are the things? Is it a conversation that I can even have at all? Is it something that fathers should intentionally be talking to their children about, you know, the fact that they're going to fall in love, and then subsequent to that, how they should be treating that woman, you know, when they fall in love with them? What are the dynamics in that relationship there?
That is very much important. One thing that a father should be able to impart in the son is a sense of identity, and that you can be able to see in the conversations that the father has with the son, creating a platform for the son to become vulnerable. And one thing that we need not to take light is the fact of observation and paying attention to the growth and developmental stages of a child. They might hide it away from you to say that they have got this infatuation. I don't believe that a child can fall in love at the age of 11 years, but that would be infatuation, the feeling of interest. So the father should be paying attention to say that there are changes that are happening in this young boy's child life. And that means that I need to draw closer to them as a way of guiding, so that they should not fall into the trap. Now, the danger part about this is that the father would oftentimes want to be living the life of a boy child through his life. And that in itself may harm or may disturb the opportunity for the boy child to find confidence in him pursuing his own life through the guidance of the father. You find that the fathers would be protective to say that, but remember that when I was 16 years, I became a teenage father. So I don't want my son to go through the same. So what he does, instead of him telling or having conversations that are healthy in terms of building the confidence of this boy child, they become more defensive and protective unnecessarily. And in that doing, somehow technically it harms the growth and the exposure that the boy child may need. It is hard for them to be able to feel that infatuation. But in terms of the steps that they need to have, they need to be able to as well provide sufficient information that may be equivalent to them at that particular stage, because you cannot find yourself bombarding the son or the child with a lot of information that would end up making him to be confused. But you need to introduce different stages of information to the young boy according to his developmental stages as well. So sometimes the boy child may be aware of some of the things that you do with your partner. So affection is very much important in the presence of the boy child who is growing up, and they would create or develop that curiosity, and they would ask questions based on the level of relationship that you have with your son. And they would ask questions, Dad, why is it that you're doing this with mom? You know, and that's where it will also create the platform to say, this is to show love to your mom. And in that, it creates trust that when he is identifying a particular thing outside in the streets, they are able to can rush back to you and ask affirmation and confirmation to say, does that mean that 1, 2, 3, 4 that is happening, is it correct? Or they are able to can equally create resistance with whatever that is negative on the streets that is not practiced or reflected or revealed in the space that is safe at home.
Yeah, I think you raise some very interesting issues here, and I think there's a lot of learning and unlearning that needs to take place within our cultural context anyway, because I think for generally most African men, you know, growing up, having that conversation with your father is potentially one of the most difficult things to do, you know, when they try and enter into the space of advising you on love and sexual issues. It's almost like, oh, okay, we don't go there, you know. It's almost of a no-go area. But I see there's a link now. The studies are saying that because of that lack, we're finding a lot of our women, our sisters, our mothers in trouble with these men who do not really know how to deal with this woman because father has not really taught. What's the impact there? If we're not doing what you're saying, is there a potential negative impact on society that we'll see as a result of fathers not teaching their sons how to love their women?
There is a huge impact, because remember that when a girl child is groomed and is raised, there's a level of nurturing that happens in this particular girl child. But there is a negligence that has happened over a period of years where there is no proper nurturing in this boy child. The boy child have just been left alone, and they have to fend out for themselves. And now the matter of the issue comes here. Both these two children have got emotions. And the danger part is that the girl child is able to can deal with these emotions in a more nurtured way because it has been instilled in them, the nurturing aspect. But now the boy child has been left alone to be frustrated to deal with these emotions without knowing exactly how to handle the emotion aspect. And that is where when the feeling of love comes, you don't know how to define it as a man. And as a result, it becomes difficult for you to even express it because you can't identify it to the woman that you love. And it will be an expectation the moment you say, I am interested in you, or the moment you say you take the numbers from the girl child. You create that expectation. And now if you don't meet that expectation, the element of disappointment immediately crops in. And already the trust it is instilled to say, I cannot trust you because you are disappointing me, simply because I don't know how to express the feeling that is inside of me. I cannot even learn to explain it because I don't know how to identify it. It is the time where we turn around and learn to define the emotions that we are going through as men so that we can clearly express them without any struggle and without any fear. By so doing, the boy child who's growing under us is able to can identify that no, that is not just doing this thing. He's also able to can say it, you know, and say something when you know it. You are able to can say it with confidence, as compared to somebody who is able to can say something with no confidence. So what would instill us to stand on the ground with confidence with what we are saying towards the women that we have chosen, towards the women that we have loved? It is us having the ability to understand what we are going through. So I think that this is the season and the space and the time for us to can fully understand our emotional well-being or the emotional aspects in us as men. And this is where a lot of harm is coming from, because when anything that is surrounding it is always attached to emotions, or there will always be emotions attached to it. So we would kill the emotional aspect of that, and we will deal with that as logical. But at times it would require us to be able to release or allow the emotional aspect to be elevated more than the logical aspect of it. And in that, there will be balance between the emotional well-being and the logical well-being of the man. And in that, women would be easier to be closer to us. They will be able to know that this is the frustrations that they are also putting on, in our lives, and they are able to be able to guide us through.
And how will we effectively do that, Bapaletswe? Because, you know, we have grown, we have been taught we're told boys don't cry. You know, men are tigers. You stand and you don't shed no tear. You don't show no emotion. How do we change that? How do we bring in a new thing as you propose it, which is actually what we're supposed to be doing anyway in the first place? But we haven't learned it properly. How do you think we should now introduce this? I wouldn't say revolutionary, but what should be actually natural teaching into our fathers to teach their fathers today? How do we do it effectively so?
Truth of the matter is that change is very painful. You cannot be able to embrace a change with so much happiness and excitement. It is painful, but it is very much necessary for us to can grow in our lives. And in order for us to can be able to bring this change in men, it's when men accept that we are clueless and we are lacking in this particular department. And when you are lacking and when you have learned to accept that, automatically assistance is available for those that need it. You know, they say that when a student is ready, the teacher appears. So at the moment you start to admit to say that I am weak, I'm unable to can express my emotions, or I'm unable to can be able to identify the type of emotions that I'm going through. And obviously there would be frustration that is going through, but are you willing to be taken through the process of you being helped? Because oftentimes we might not be available even if we are willing to be helped. So if you accept, you avail yourself so that you can be taken through a process. You can't cut across, or you cannot be able to dissect the process. It starts from one point to the other. It has to be complete in order for you to be able to complete your cycle as well of being developed. Now, the people that are good in terms of instilling or igniting these emotions are women. By the fact that we are shying away from women and we think that they are causing more headache in our lives, then it means that we need to create a platform for ourselves. Thank God there are platforms like this where we are able to can come together as men and talk about our issues. Let us not be able to only talk when we are intoxicated, when we have got beverages that are able to can help us speak English more on a higher level, you know. But we need to be able to embrace to say we are accepting that we don't have the know-how of these emotions or the know-how of how to be able to express ourselves emotionally. Then let us come together and be able to empower one another as men before we can be able to go and be able to practice or express this in our families and in the society.
This is powerful stuff, man. I think thank you very much for that. I have promised our viewers that, you know, we're going to limit this to 30 minutes so they don't finish their batteries, seeing that ESCOM is not being kind to us. So I think as a parting shot, I would ask you to say, if to just imagine you were on a big stage in the center of Africa somewhere, and every man in the world, every man could hear you and could hear your message. What is the one thing you'd like to tell to men across the world right now?
There are only two things that I would share with men. The first thing is that the man has been given the vision of marriage by God. So in order for them to can be able to sell the vision of marriage to women, that they become partners to the vision, they need to be able to be accurately positioned with God so that he can open up the fullness and the wholesomeness of this vision to them. And they need to be aligned. You know, sometimes you can be in a particular position, but you may not necessarily be functional to that particular position. So you need to, in order for you to be relevant with the type of vision that has been given to you, you need to constantly connect to your source, who is God. The second thing that God has given the man is the seed, which is the sperm. I am saying to men, protect the seed, because out of the seed comes blessings. The children that we give birth to are as a result of our seed. Now imagine the dysfunctionality that is affecting, or that is coming out naturally, that we don't even know how to deal with them. It's simply because of the promiscuity that is happening in this world, that is happening in the society. So if we can prevent and protect our seed, we would stand a better chance to give birth to healthy, functional children.
Yeah, no. Thank you, Chief. This requires us to have another session. I think I will be inviting you soon again, because
Yes,
there's so much to unpack from what you've just said. There's so much to touch in and lean into, to get the wisdom thereof. But I think it's important that at least we also respect our viewers' data. If the Vodacoms and the sales are not very kind right now, but thank you very much for coming through to our live chats on Monday. I really hope we'll be getting in touch so we can do this again soon. And thank you to our viewers and listeners out there. I hope you enjoyed the session tonight. Jojo.
No, I appreciate it so much for the invite as well, sir.
All righty. Chat again soon, sir. Thank you.
Cheers.
All right.